It's time now for The Splash on Civic Center TV. On this week's episode, the history of West Bloomfield School District is put on display at the public library. Then we get an exclusive interview with Sylvan Lake City Manager John Martin. And later, he's got the questions and you've got the answers. It's more sidewalk talk with George Moore. The Splash is a production of Civic Center TV. We're a news magazine that covers everything from local news to feature stories, also that we can bring you the latest from the greater West Bloomfield area. And now, let's dive into The Splash. Hello and welcome once again to The Splash. I'm your host, Jonathan Jackson. We've got a great show for you this week as our top story is on the history of West Bloomfield School District. Right now at the West Bloomfield Public Library, a group of historical panels are on display, each providing an in-depth account of the district's past. We sent our very own George Moore to the grand opening, and he filed this report.
Hi, George Moore for The Splash. We are here at the West Bloomfield Public Library main meeting room. Another great event going on, and it's in partnership with the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society, who do some great work over the years in not only protecting but preserving the rich cultural heritage and history of our community. Now, in this exhibit that's on display, or will be on display, it is called Celebrate Our School History with West Bloomfield Schools, a series of exhibit panels involving all the schools in the West Bloomfield area. So we'll see some interesting things here. We'll talk to the person solely responsible, Christy Forehand, who put all this together and is a great leader in the community, and we'll talk to the people here in attendance to get their viewpoints and ideas and what they think of this. This will be a lot of fun.
Oh, I think it's really a nice way for us to understand more about the West Bloomfield history. We don't have one of those little historic downtowns that you might see in Farmington or Plymouth. And so I know when I moved here 20-some years ago, I didn't really think of this as being a historic area. But when you peel back the covers, there's a lot of history. There's wonderful stories that associate with the families that settled this part of the township. And when you take it and focus it just in on our schools, there's a lot to be learned there too.
This school project is very important for the greater West Bloomfield area to know when our schools started, why they started, where the children came from, the obstacles that they had to go through even to get to school.
Well, it's all the schools of West Bloomfield, including Ely, which unfortunately is no longer a school in the district, but when the project got started, Ely was still standing. So it's the 9 schools of West Bloomfield and including another panel that covers the district as a whole. So there's lots of photos, old and new, text on every panel that kind of summarizes the history, and yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
I think it's really cool that we get to learn more about our schools and see how our schools came about and who are the earlier principals. And I think it's really cool, especially learning how the whole school is brought together and built.
Well, I think it's important that these will be in each school, and these exhibits that we see tonight will be traveling so that people from around the community will be able to see them. But it'll be helpful for the students to know the history of their particular school for when they are placed in the schools. That's very exciting to see that.
It's very important that the community sees this and understands the background. It's just an important piece of our history and our future.
Preserving history is so very important to any community. And in this close-knit community of Greater West Bloomfield, they do an excellent job at it. So we want to thank the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society, the school district. We look forward to seeing these exhibit panels displayed around the community, and the importance of them will be known for years to come. For The Splash, I'm George Moore.
Thanks, George. And we also want to thank everyone who was kind enough to put this event together today, such as the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society, the West Bloomfield School District, and the West Bloomfield Public Library. And if you'd like to uncover more on these historical panels for yourself, then visit civiccentertv.com/GWBHS to find out more. Moving on, though, our next story takes place in Sylvan Lake, where City Manager John Martin gave us an update on the renovations happening at City Hall. The Splash's Cecilia Gallio has the story.
Hi, I'm Cecilia Gallio with The Splash. I'm here to speak with Sylvan Lake City Manager John Martin to see how renovations are going at Sylvan Lake City Hall.
It's been a long process, about a year and a half so far, but what we had to do was completely gut the basement. It was just storage. Actually, originally it was a garage, but we had to gut that, completely redo it. Now City Hall operations are temporarily downstairs while we finish the renovations upstairs.
There were a few reasons for the renovation, one of which was to separate City Hall and the police offices so that they both could work more efficiently.
There will be two totally separate entrances. The police department entrance is going to be downstairs. It's a brand new entrance, and that will allow people to come in 24 hours a day, get police service. Even if there's not an officer there, they can call and an officer will come in, and then the City Hall functions are going to be upstairs separate from the police.
Beforehand, things were a lot different. Built in the 1920s, Sylvan Lake City Hall housed both police cars and fire trucks inside their garage. However, the building wasn't large enough, forcing some minor renovations to be made.
So originally, City Hall was quite small. We added on about 12 feet to the back of it in the mid-1980s, an office for the city manager and one for the police chief.
But now, almost 30 years later, the issue of safety is forcing them to make a change, once again.
We were having police issues right in the middle of City Hall, actually to the point of having people handcuffed to chairs right in the middle of the lobby at City Hall. Really unsafe for both residents and our City Hall employees, so we decided to really separate them, and they will be separate now.
With only a month away until completion, City Manager John Martin is confident that residents are going to have a more positive experience.
When the work's complete, I think the residents are going to have a City Hall that they can be very proud of. It'll be a showcase, not extravagant, but very professional, very well done. I think having the police department and the City Hall separate, they're going to see very, very big pluses with that.
Renovations are really coming along at Sylvan Lake City Hall, and we're really looking forward to seeing the finished product. For The Splash, I'm Cecilia Gallio.
Thanks, Cecilia, and we also want to thank City Manager John Martin for keeping us up to date. With these renovations only a month away from completion, it should make for a safer, more stable City Hall. And to find out more on all the changes happening there, visit civiccentertv.com/Sylvan Lake. Well, coming up, our very own George Moore is back out in the West Bloomfield community with a grocery shopping themed edition of Sidewalk Talk. And later, we interview Lorne Plant from State Champs Network right here in the studio. All that and more right after this.
Don't go away. You're watching The Splash on Civic Center TV.
Civic Center TV celebrates our region's natural beauty, proud history, tremendous accomplishments, and more with Another Angle, a series featuring a unique bird's-eye view of our area's landscape. Watch Another Angle on Civic Center TV, television that's close to home.
A full life, measured in seats, starts with the right ones early on. Car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Learn how to prevent deaths and injuries by using the right car seat for your child's age and size.
The best way to know when shows debut on Civic Center TV is to become a member. It's absolutely free. We'll send you a regular newsletter with all the latest updates. Just go to civiccentertv.com and click the Members tab. Civic Center TV, television that's close to home.
And now, back to The Splash on Civic Center TV.
Welcome back to The Splash. I'm your host, Jonathan Jackson. It's time now for another edition of Sidewalk Talk, where our very own George Moore talks with people in the greater West Bloomfield area. Today's topic is on shopping carts and what sizes people actually use.
Hi, George Moore for Civic Center TV, and this is Sidewalk Talk. We're out here in the greater West Bloomfield area, rain or shine, to find out things we want answers to. Why? Because we're nosy. When you go grocery shopping, what is your favorite size cart? The little one or the big one?
The little one. Because I normally don't go and shop for large quantities. I usually just come in to pick up something. And I do that more here now because the hours are so great.
My favorite size cart that I like to use is typically the mini cart like here. I don't like the bigger carts just because a lot of times they already have issues going on with themselves.
The big one.
Well, basically the big one, but I come in, get the little one because I'm thinking I'm only going to get 2 items. Not a good thing. Should get the big one.
Well, it depends. If I have my daughter, we do this size here. We can take her. Usually, if I don't have her, I take a little one because I just grab a few things in and out. But if I have her, usually getting a lot. So.
The little one.
I tend to go with a little one. I live on my own, so I don't really buy that much.
I always get the large one.
Why?
Because I always see more that I want and need once I get into the store.
Residents of Greater West Bloomfield area, we asked the questions, you gave us the answers. And that's what we wanted out here in the streets of the Greater West Bloomfield area. For The Splash, I'm George Moore. Sidewalk Talk.
Thanks, George. Whether big or small, everyone's got a different opinion when it comes to their grocery shopping. Personally, I always go big, but that's another story. Anyway, we hope you all enjoyed this episode of Sidewalk Talk, and if you'd like to see more, then head to civiccentertv.com/Sidewalk Talk. Well, it's time now for a Civic Center event update. You can find out more on all the following events by visiting civiccentertv.com/events. It's a great tool to keep you up to date on everything going on in the Greater West Bloomfield area. So without further ado, let's get started. Temple Israel and Forgotten Harvest invite you and others to gather bags of food to bring to an individual or families who may be in need. This is not a donation or drop-off point, but a private and discreet food pickup. The event will take place at Temple Israel on the first and third Tuesday of every month and runs from 3 till 5 p.m. Make sure to stop by for however long you can and help support those in need. The event is free for those as well. Henry Ford West Bloomfield Hospital offers free tours of their greenhouse every Tuesday with resident farmer Trevor Johnson. Throughout it, he'll teach you all about hydroponic growing techniques, basic plant care, crop harvesting, and much more. There are 2 tours available at 11 a.m. or noon, and the tour will last about 45 minutes. Tours are limited to 15 people a session, and registration is required 48 hours in advance. But the event is one you won't want to miss, so make sure to get there early. As spring rain fills our wetland ponds, the frogs are out and about in large numbers. So come out and join the Friends of Rouge on the trail and learn all about the calls of frogs during their frog hike on April 8th from 7 till 8:30 p.m. The program is free, but pre-registration is required for all adults and children. As part of the Music at Maine concert series, the West Bloomfield Public Library will host the Klezmer Fusion Band for 2 performances on Sunday, April 10th. The first performance will begin at 3 p.m. with the doors opening at 2:30, and the second performance will begin at 5 p.m. with the doors opening at 4:30. Also, these shows will be held in the meeting room of the West Bloomfield Public Library and are free to the public. The West Bloomfield Public Library continues their popular film series discussion group facilitated by Dr. Tara Hayes from Oakland University with the film 12 Angry Men. Revisit this old classic with fellow film enthusiasts as you discuss its influence on filmmakers both back then and now. The meeting takes place on April 11th at 7 p.m. in the main library meeting room, and no charge is necessary. Keeping one's balance can be difficult both early and later in life. However, for our seniors, the fear of falling can be far more intimidating. Henry Ford West Bloomfield Hospital is now offering a program to help reduce that fear and increase activity levels among older adults. These workshops are interactive, and participants will engage in group discussion, problem solving, and skill building through an 8-session course offered by the Area Agency on Aging 1-B. To register, call the agency at 1-800-852-7795. It's a $15 per class, or complete the entire course, and the classes are free. Classes are on consecutive Wednesdays, but newcomers will not be accepted after the second one. West Bloomfield Public Library invites Kevin Devine, award-winning children's entertainer and songwriter, to their concert for little ones. Bring your child into the library for a day filled with smiles, singing along, and dancing. Immediately following the program, a balloon artist will be available to create balloon animals, hats, and other shapes. The event takes place at 10:30 and goes on until 11:30. No registration is required, so be sure to stop by anytime. Come and join Dr. Steve Berman at the West Bloomfield Public Library as he reviews Shanghai Girls by Lisa C. on Wednesday, April 13th at 7 p.m. and again on Friday, April 15th at 10 a.m. As the April selection for the 2015-2016 book review series, Shanghai Girls is a rather complex and interesting novel about 2 sisters who go through great pain and suffering in leaving their home of Shanghai to try and adjust to their difficult roles as Chinese immigrants within the U.S. Last, but certainly not least, are the award-winning Mack Sisters, who are coming to perform here in West Bloomfield. These duo pianists have won competitions all across the globe, but actually reside right here in Michigan. And on April 14th, they're having a concert at the All Seasons of West Bloomfield. Their performance will take place at 7:30 p.m., and the event is free to the public, so be sure to come out and support these 2 great musicians. And that's a glimpse of what's happening around town. If you want to find out even more of what's going on in your neighborhood, then be sure to follow us at civiccentertv.com/events. Well, we're going to take a quick break for now, but when we come back, I'll sit down with TV anchor Lorne Plant from the State Champs Sports Network right after this.
You are watching The Splash on Civic Center TV.
Be sure to catch live coverage of Lakers sports, up-to-date information on local events, and of course, non-stop music on 89.3 WBLD, the all-new Lakes FM.
I'm Stacy Passini, caseworker for West Bloomfield Youth Assistance. West Bloomfield Youth Assistance provides confidential casework services to children and families living in the West Bloomfield School District. If your family or child is struggling, West Bloomfield Youth Assistance can help. For more information about West Bloomfield Youth Assistance programs and services, please visit www.wbyouthassistance.org or call 248-592-1278.
For years, Civic Center TV has been bringing you live coverage of local municipal meetings. The meetings are now available on demand at civiccentertv.com/meetings or watch the meetings again the following day on Civic Center TV, television that's close to home.
And now, back to The Splash on Civic Center TV.
Welcome back to The Splash, everyone. I'm Jonathan Jackson. My guest on the show this week is Lorne Plant, the sports anchor for State Champs. Lorne, tell us, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me in. I appreciate it.
It's good to have you here,
Absolutely.
man.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, Lorne, you as the sports anchor over at State Champs, tell us a little bit about what you do. What sports are you involved in? High school, college? Well, what's going on there?
Right. So the State Champs Sports Network is high school based, primarily. Mostly we have been around since the fall of 2002. We've got our 500th episode coming up, and it's basically a weekly recap of what took place in Michigan high school sports for that week. And we do it 40 weeks a year, and it's tremendous. It's a lot of fun. The kids appreciate when we come out. We started as just a Southeast Michigan-based show, and that was kind of the way we were all the way up until about 3 years ago. Then we were able to craft a deal with Fox Sports Detroit, and we are now statewide, covering the whole state. We have teams all across this great state, and giving us highlights of games. We do feature stories on kids, and we just have a lot of fun.
All right. And were you a bit of a sports fan yourself in high school? Did you play anything? Or?
Yeah. So I grew up in California.
Okay.
Moved out here in '99, and was always been a sports fan. As soon as I got here, was able to really, because Detroit is such a sports-based city, and the passion is so deep, I was able to really just embrace being a Detroiter and being a Michigander, and had the opportunity to work for the Detroit Tigers for 7 years, running the scoreboard and being a part of that team, and was also able to do it with the Lions as well.
Okay.
So that was a lot of fun as well. So that really hooked me in. So I've been a sports fan for a really long time, most of my life, and I played a lot of sports growing up. So.
Okay. Yeah, as anchoring all these high school sports, what I love about them is the passion. These kids are just starting out, and they're really starting to get their feet, wet into, later on in college, maybe, or then, in the pros. But you're getting to see them really in the early stages of high school. It's got to be fun, just to, yeah.
What's fantastic about it is the fact that, let's face it, 90% are never going to play really beyond high school. It's really our own glory days. But it's something, if you remember, if you played high school sports and you were involved in it, or maybe just a fan and just loved going to games and enjoying it, you know how passionate it is and how it means so much to you. We try to kind of bring that across every week on the show and really give these kids their moment in the sun, as it were. But you also do, at the same time, have the opportunity to see kids who are going to be amazing. We have kids now. We're basically working on our almost our fifth generation of student athletes since we've been doing the show for so long, and we're seeing them now, hugely successful and pro athletes, as well as getting an opportunity to play at college at the highest level, really all levels. So.
Exactly. And you're getting, so much from these kids, and I love it. But also, not just, you're doing, like I said, sports before, but you're getting into robotics as well, which is kind of a sport, as we've been, we talked about earlier. But tell us a little bit about that. What's going on in that debate?
So last year, and we were hearing about robotics and how this was really growing, high school robotics. And I basically told the team, I took a couple of photographers, I said, look, Eastern Michigan is having these state championships. This was actually 2 years ago.
Okay.
And I want you to just take a couple cameras there, just go film, interview kids, see what this thing is all about. And they came back, after 3 days of filming, and they were like, wow, this thing is crazy. The place was packed. There were hundreds of kids. The energy was unbelievable. And so I was like, all right, well, let's do a documentary on that. And so we did. So we kind of did what we call our State Champs Beyond Sports series. And we just kind of, basically loosely covered what high school robotics is about, why the kids are involved, everything that goes into high school robotics. And we were blessed to win a Michigan Emmy Award for that as Outstanding Youth Television. And it really just spurred us to say, well, you know what? We do state champs already. They have an 8-week competitive season, and it is very competitive. Why don't we just do a, Sports Center style, state champ style coverage of robotics? Okay. And they have, districts every week during the season. Some weeks there are 4 districts, some weeks there are 3. It's all over the state. And again, there's over 300 teams now competing here in the state of Michigan. Now, some of them are combined, schools that combine to form these teams, and some are just, the schools themselves producing a team. But it's really amazing because you have not only designers, you have kids who can build robots, so you have really mechanically sound kids. Right. You have engineers who are really great at figuring out how to make them work and operate, and then you've got those who are really good at being electricians and wiring these things and make it. And then you have those who can really operate the robots, the gamers, if you will. So it's this great group of kids who all come together and have that one common goal, and that is to win each week and then compete in the state championship. And then many of them go on to the world championships, which take place in various places. I think last year was in St. Louis. Ooh. And Michigan has more world champions than any other state in the United States.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, and even here in West Bloomfield, we don't have a robotics team of our own. We do have other sports teams in football and baseball.
Sure.
But Bloomfield Hills, and some students, maybe go to there, and there's an opening. It could happen just as well here too.
Yes.
In any other city.
They're good.
Yeah.
Bionic Blackhawks. And, yes, they're good. And all the communities pretty much are represented. And what's amazing is the state has really made an investment in STEM programs, and that's the science, technology, engineering, and math. And so as a way to get kids more involved, and obviously, manufacturing is big in wanting to continue to produce engineers from the state, quality kids. If you are a school that wants to start a robotics team, they will give you, I think, in upwards of $20,000 and they'll give you the tools, they'll give you the mentors, they'll give you everything you need to get your team started and competing. And I don't know, I forget the number of how many rookie teams there are this year, but there are, I believe it's in the 40s. So these schools, as long as they have the desire, the state will back them up. And First Robotics, which is kind of the organization that runs the whole thing, they will make sure that you're taken care of and given an opportunity to go for it.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. And I'm glad to hear that, because especially not just kids in this community who are getting involved in robotics, but all around the world and sports too. It's good to see that. It's competitive, it's fun, and it's team building.
It's a sport.
Exactly.
We sell it as a sport. Exactly. Sometimes we get some feedback like, what's this robotic stuff you're throwing on us? Because we have an hour show right now, and so we do our kind of traditional State Champ show from 9 to 9:30, and then State Champs Robo Zone, which is what we call it, goes from 9:30 to 10. And sometimes people are a little taken back by it, but we give it a lot of energy. And I think once they really soak it in, they're like, you know what, this is pretty cool.
That's right. That's right. And I can't wait to see more from RoboZone as well as other sports segments. You can catch Lorne right here on, you can catch Lorne on State Champ Sports Network through YouTube and Fox Sports Detroit Sundays at 9 a.m.
Yep.
And also on their website at statechampsnetwork.com. So make sure to check them out there as well. So thank you once again to Lorne for joining us on the show. And just make sure to watch him and all the great work he's doing for RoboZone and also at State Champs.
Yeah, and we try to get out here to West Bloomfield, cover the sports. Tristan Jackson was a huge story this year and what he was able to do for the Lakers, and he's going to be amazing at Michigan State. So we always make sure that we give Southeast Michigan a lot of attention, a lot of credit, and because this is like where the major population center is, and it's great anytime we get a chance to cover West Bloomfield and the surrounding communities.
All right. Thank you so much,
All right,
Lorne.
thank you.
Appreciate the interview.
Absolutely.
Have a good one. All right.
Thank you.
Oh, well, we're moving on to our next segment, though. It's our Minute with Nature featuring park naturalist Lorne Azzurri from West Bloomfield Parks and Rec. This week's update is on our springtime amphibians. Lorne?
Hello and welcome to your Minute with Nature. I'm Lorne Azzurri, your host, the park naturalist for West Bloomfield Parks and Recreation. We're in our nature room today and we're joined by our tiger salamander. One of the best things in the spring is to listen for frogs and look for salamanders. Amphibians are out in full force in the spring. This is their mating time, so they will be coming out from underneath the logs and out from underneath hibernation underneath the pond and laying their eggs. In order to lay their eggs, they need vernal ponds, which are ponds that fill up with water, or wetland spaces that fill with water, and the water will go away in the summertime. The salamanders will migrate down to the ponds, lay their eggs, and they actually hatch as tadpoles. So salamanders are an amphibian, just like frogs and toads, and lay their eggs in water, and they hatch as tadpoles, and then they metamorphosize into a salamander. Look for salamanders underneath dead logs. They like to hide underneath the dead logs. You can roll a log over and see salamanders under there if you're lucky. They do like to hide, and they do like to eat under those dead logs. They find things like slugs and snails and worms. They're carnivores, so they eat other animals and other insects. This time of year is when the frogs are calling. They have a certain timeline, so each frog calls at a different time. That way they don't compete with each other. It's only the male frogs that call. Female frogs actually do not have vocal abilities. So when you're out there listening for the frogs, it's all the boys that are out there singing, trying to attract the mates down to the pond. Not all frogs say ribbit like they show in the cartoons. Each frog has their own special call. So if you learn the frog calls, you can listen and decide which frogs are outside at this time of year. And that's your Minute with Nature.
Thanks, Lorne. And if you'd like to know more about our amphibious friends or see more Minute with Nature, then visit civiccentertv.com/MWN. We now turn to our other segment here on The Splash, our Person of the Week. This is where we acknowledge an individual within the community who is simply providing a good service toward others. This week's winner is the Marketing Director for West Bloomfield Parks and Rec, Megan Cornett. Megan Cornett is the Marketing Director for West Bloomfield Parks and Recreation. She's quite a familiar face around the area as she is frequently involved in both nonprofit and community-oriented events within West Bloomfield. For 3 years now, she's been working within Parks and Rec, but says that each day is a little bit different. From working on the department's website, to advertising events on social media, to utilizing graphic design and communicating with nonprofits in the area, Megan does a little bit of everything. But she loves her job dearly and says that it's the most fun she's ever had. A little well-known fact about Megan is that she is an animal lover and has pictures of her dog Oliver as well as her parents' dogs up in her office. However, she also loves to visit the animals within the nature room. Whether working as the marketing director or showing love to her pets, or just serving those within the community, Megan Cornett is without a doubt our Person of the Week. If you or someone you know is providing a service to their community, then let us know by sending an email to The Splash at civiccentertv.com. We want to congratulate those who are making a difference in our area, and we appreciate any and all suggestions. Well, that's all the time we have for today, but make sure to catch us every Monday for new episodes of The Splash and throughout the week for replays. You can also look us up on previous episodes online at civiccentertv.com, and don't forget to follow us on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook under Civic Center TV for more information. For all our friends in Sylvan Lake, Orchard Lake, Kego Harbor, and of course West Bloomfield, I'm Jonathan Jackson, and we'll see you next time.